Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and for once I am ahead of the game with this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. I don't know what to say, I'm super late this time like I usually do. So, I pulled out Simon Says Stamp Encouraging Animals stamp set because I wanted to use this cat because it just, oh, I think it's the most adorable image ever. I only meant to stamp it once, but I had this scrap of Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper and it was big enough for two, so I was like, why not? So I used my mini MISTI so that I could stamp these multiple times onto the smooth side of the watercolor paper with Simon Says Stamp's Intense Black ink. And then I'm using 3 different shades of Distress ink to do my coloring. So I've mushed them onto my little plastic Art Impressions palette here. And I'm using Pumice Stone, Hickory Smoke, and Black Soot, just basically mixing the 3 together and just picking up the colors with a water brush. So super, super simple. I just wanted to get this first layer of color down. And since I'm doing 2 of them, I decided I wanted to try and get them as similar as possible because I was like, in my head, I was thinking I'll use one on the outside and one on the inside. And the idea is they're kind of like they're the same cat, which I just created more work for myself. These honestly didn't take that long, but when I'm painting on this little bit of detail, you know, I wanted to give them stripes. That's when I was like, crap, I need to try and make these the same. So I tried as hard as I could to keep them the same, but they're, yeah, I just can't be bothered sometimes to put in too much, you know, effort, but I tried really hard to keep them similar. So after I'd done that first layer, I dried it with my heat tool, and then I'm just picking up the same colors, but I'm just adding a little bit more black soot to the mix. So it was a little bit darker, and then, yeah, painted on all their little stripes and added that same color to their nose. And then I grabbed my Candied Apple Distress ink and carefully, because these are so little, went around and colored his little glasses red. I thought those looked really cute with red frames. Plus, because this color combo is, for the challenge, is red, green, and yellow, kind of back to school-y colors. And if you go to my blog, I'll have the inspiration photo and all that info linked as well. And you'll see it's a total kind of back to school theme, which is perfect for this time of year, of course. Hence me choosing these images. So I also pulled out the Stitched Alphabet stamp set that I've been wanting to ink up. And as I was looking at it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave the whole thing on its own backing sheet. I'm not going to fiddle with it because I wanted to stamp the letters on the background. So I just opened it up, removed the, you know, one backing paper and fold it over. And then I've just got all these stamps face up on my desk. And I am inking them up with Simon Says Green Apple dye ink because I have their green apple cardstock here. So I inked it up, and then I'm just pressing that cardstock onto those inked up stamps, being very careful not to move the cardstock because I wanted this to stamp perfectly, which it did. So I've got my stamped alphabet background, and I'm going to die cut that with the Simon Says Wonky Rectangles Wafer dies, the largest one. I thought the stitching would look just kind of nice around the edge. And then I used the Script Thanks wafer dies, and I die cut I always call it the bubble. I guess it's the shadow, but I just like calling it the bubble. I die cut the bubble die from white cardstock, and then the actual word I die cut from black cardstock. And then I flipped it over, and I'm just very lightly dabbing on some Ranger Multimedium matte adhesive. And I'm going to pick this up with my reverse tweezers so that I don't get adhesive all over my fingers. And then press that into place, and that bubble is going to frame that word. I love this die. I'm really hoping Simon releases many more words like this. Hint, hint, if anyone is listening. I really like them. So after I was done the die cutting, I wanted to complete the sentiment. So I have some Simon Lipstick Red, which is like just a really bright red cardstock. And I'm using the Teacher Sentiment from the Thank You Teacher stamp set. And I used my anti-static powder tool along the bottom and then stamped that word with Simon Says Clear Embossing ink, coated that with white embossing powder, and then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. And then once it was melted, I'm going to trim this piece down with my paper cutter. And as I was, and funneling back the embossing powder back in the container, putting the lid on so I don't knock it over because I do that a lot. So once I had got that done, I can now trim this down with my paper trimmer and cut it down with that, and then decided to cut a little flag end on the one end. So I just trimmed a little piece down the center, and then you meet up each corner with the middle of that cut. and that creates just a simple little flag end. And then, shocker of all shockers, I'm using some pattern paper, not very much of it, because I like to hoard my pattern paper. I don't know why people expect me to use it. I just like to collect it. Anyway, I was going through my stash, and I have this Doodlebug Back to School 6x6 paper, which is 1, adorable, and 2, so much of it was perfect for this color combo and the theme of this card. So I trimmed the little school bus piece just so I had a nice little narrow strip. Did the same thing, cut a little flag end with my scissors, and then I adhered that to the top portion of this red cardstock. I just thought it would kind of give that cute little touch. Plus, like I said, it goes perfectly with this color combo because the color combo is the green, the red, and the yellow. And then you can add neutrals. That's how we do the challenges. Again, linked in my blog post. All the info will be on the Color Throwdown blog. So I popped up the red piece with some foam tape as well as the cat. And then for the thanks sentiment, I added a really narrow strips of foam tape behind that as well. And then popped that over both like the cat and the pattern paper. So it'll say thanks teacher. And then to finish off my little bit of embellishments, I also have some primary assortment sprinkles from Doodlebug that match this pattern pack that I've also been hoarding forever. So I used 3 of them on this card, a yellow, a green, and a red. And then for the inside of my card, I have some heavyweight white cardstock that I had already cut in half, so it's 4 1/4 by 11. And then I scored it at 5 1/2 with my Teflon bone folder, so this will be a standard A2 size card. So I got it all scored, and then I'm going to line this up, the inside up in my MISTI, because I want to stamp this sentiment from that same Thank You Teacher stamp set. And then I was planning on obviously adhering that second cat that I colored on the inside, so I made sure to lower where I was going to place the sentiment. Lined it all up, used the lid of the grid lines etched in the lid to make sure that these were straight, and then I'm inking it up with the same intense black ink. And then I was going to just adhere the cat over it, but then I remembered there was this apple pattern paper that I really liked from the pack and wanted to use as well. So I trimmed down a little strip of that just to add to the inside of the card to kind of finish off the whole teacher theme here. So trim down a strip of that, and I'm just going to adhere that flat to the inside of the card with my ATG adhesive. And then I can just flip this over and trim off the excess with my scissors so that everything is lined up right to the edges, and then adhere that cat right over the sentiment. And then I'm going to adhere my card front with more foam tape so things are all really popped up and dimensional, and that finishes off my card. So I will have links below the video to my blog post. In the blog post I'll have the color inspiration, a link to the color challenge, links to all the supplies used, so check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping my videos. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!